are familiar somewhat with Bluegrass, I would hope, but we are the provider of CTE equipment and curriculum in the Mid-Atlantic and Florida and Kentucky. I don't know if Kentucky really fits into the Mid-Atlantic. So we're in Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, DC, Delaware, Kentucky, and Florida. And we serve career and technical education, both in the secondary and the post-secondary market. And this morning, we're going to be focusing on automotive with zSpace. And we have who's really doing the heavy lifting this morning. I just get to come on and say hi, and I'll be back on at the end to kind of wrap things up. We have Michael Carbina, who is the Executive Director of CTE with zSpace. He's been at zSpace for just about 3 years. Prior to that, he was a CTE Director in St. Lucie Public Schools down in Florida. He also served as a principal, CTE Department Chair, and teacher in Orange County schools down in the Orlando area. One of the things I really appreciate about Michael is not just his perfectly shaped head and haircut. You know, we're talking about kindred spirits. I think he and I are kind of one of the same there. But he is just super enthusiastic about education. First and foremost, I think he would any company that he would have ended up with, he would have been just as passionate. I believe talking about education and what's best for students and giving great tools to teachers. And so we're glad he's with zSpace. And zSpace is one of our favorite partners that we work with. So with that introduction, Michael, I will turn it over to you. We want to keep this as interactive as we can. So feel free. We'll pause periodically for questions, but you know, feel free to drop something into the chat room, and one of us will make sure that gets addressed. So again, thanks for joining us, and take it away, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning to everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you for those of you that are just joining. The great part about it, as you've already seen, is we learned everybody's favorite cars. I'm also going to get on the VW Rabbit list, but use the chat as we're going through it. And we'll just keep it really free flowing and have an open conversation. Now, one of the things I wanted to start off right away is we're going to see my setup. So that's going to help you understand as an educator, as an instructor, how you teach with this, because there's a couple different views that we'll talk about today, whether you're the student perspective or the instructor perspective. So what you're seeing here, where I have my monitor, and then I have, this is called the all-in-one. That is going to be best used as a presentation station, which I'm going to emulate for you today. Now, with that said, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to kind of kick this off. I'm going to talk at you for about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we're going to take some questions. And again, if anything comes up during the time, we've got Nathan and team here monitoring the chat, and we'll go from there. So I'm really excited to have you here. Now, with that said, we are in Zoom today, so it's important to know I am delivering this through Zoom, just like you could do this through Microsoft Teams. It could be Google Meets, Google Classroom. There's a number of different, big blue button. There's a number of different telecommunication pieces. And because zSpace is also a Windows-based machine, it allows that to happen. So as we kick it in, we're going to get it started. We know today's topic is going to be automotive programs and blended learning. So a couple things I want to keep in mind, and this is really important for the automotive instructors out there and our leaders that joined us today. What zSpace and any AR and VR, what matters is the content, of course, but the great advantage of this technology is it allows you to do things that are, well, we have an acronym that we call DICE that was coined by Dr. Jeremy Bailenson out of Stanford. We're going to do things and look at things today that are dangerous, impossible, counterproductive, and or expensive. So kind of keep that in your mind as you think about things, and think about what the students would be experienced, because those 4 things really speak to what the students' advantages are of using AR and VR in our programs. So just from a little high level perspective, so we want to make sure and tell you where we fit into the space if you're not aware. Most of you are probably aware of something called a head-mounted display, or an HMD. And why that's important is it lets you understand the hardware component. This is where you're covering your eyes. Very, very popular in the entertainment space. Some of you may play one of the more popular games called like Beat Saber, and but there's a lot of different pieces involved in that. Then on the other side of it, you have augmented reality, where you're not necessarily immersed in an entire one-on-one experience. You're really manipulating, you know, in the case of you have your phone, you're manipulating an object or a space at a particular time, at a particular moment. And that's, well, a lot of that is BYOD, or bring your own device. zSpace is going to fall into the blend of those. We're actually kind of a mixed reality where we're still going to put on glasses, and I'm going to practice that for you. But you also get to manipulate and control different objects. And in this case, we're going to take apart a car engine. You know, we're going to look at some different pieces that goes into that. So I just wanted to lay the landscape and let you know where we fit into that. I also wanted to let you all know where our customers are, because that's always a question that comes up. This is our customer map, and you can see we are very blessed to be an international company. We do about a third of our business internationally. But all those little blue dots, you can drill down into your local community and find out, am I going to be the first in my community to embrace this technology, or perhaps I'm behind? Either way, you're going to have the ability to see that inside of it, and you go to zspace.com on our customer map, you will see that with no problem. So I know today's focus is automotive, but for our instructional leaders that are here today, I wanted to remind you that zSpace also has a number of core academic pieces. We are fantastic in the sciences. That is led by Dr. Joe Parlier. If you ever wanted to hear from him on how you can do with biology, chemistry, physics, I highly recommend that you bring that component to it. But we do have a lot of other topic areas: welding, automotive, manufacturing, agriculture, health. We fit into a lot of spaces. So with that said, let's kind of kick this off. I want you to hear from one of my favorite customers. It's a post-secondary customer. His name is Warren Takata, and he is an ACE Master Certified instructor, and he kind of speaks to what his students thought about when they started using this. And this was just as the pandemic kicked off.
But once we exposed them to zSpace and they seen the automotive training, they were blown away. They knew that was going to be virtual reality, augmented reality, but they didn't really understand that when they pulled it up from the screen and that when they would tilt their head, the items would follow the glasses. And because they've had some hands-on experience, whether personally, like repairing things at home or here at the campus, they really like the aspect of drawing out the tools that you need for the repair.
Again, that's a quick 15-second clip relating back to what we were talking about. The things they get to do that are typically dangerous, impossible, counterproductive, and or expensive. So let's get right into it. And you'll see here, this is the breakdown. We have a relationship with Nocti, but a lot of you, I'm sure, are doing ASE. So depending on your level of student, you know, Nocti could be an appropriate certification for you. But what we do is we do a little bit of a crosswalk, and we explain what you can and can't do inside of this. Because look, let me be very clear. I am the grandson of a diesel mechanic and diesel instructor. Nothing replaces putting your hands on this. However, we know we can accelerate learning, and in a remote setting or in a face-to-face, you got to have the versatility to allow that to happen. So let's take a peek at A1, or if we're doing engine repair. You're going to notice, this is just a quick walk that I did. You're going to notice right here, when we look at engine repair, the cylinder head, it's not in numerical order because you can't do everything. Some things you have to do in real time, or it needs to be more of a guided experience. When we talk about inspecting and removing and disassembling, you can do that in a virtual sense. So depending on your own lab setup, maybe your students aren't coming in, maybe they're working from home, and you need to have, we can't ship transmissions to everybody. This is going to allow them to do it. And these are the different things that you can do. Now, we break this down for you as part of our professional development when you work with zSpace as to what you can and cannot do. But I wanted you to give a quick overview and let you see of the very different things you can and cannot do. So let's talk about the first piece. What does it look like? So some of you are in your classroom today, and thank you for joining us, or you're at home. We're not shipping this transmission home to students. We're not sending this engine block home to them. Even if we do have this in our shop, we typically, now we know we're not going to have a bunch of kids stand around it and stare at it. You know, so when you take things here, this is a setup where this is the automotive instructor. This is David Elliott, one of our zSpace regional directors. They're taking apart a transmission, and he's leading his class through that. So they're able to see him go through the parts. They can talk about it, and they can go from there. So with that said, here's this first application. And again, if you have questions, please pop them in. You'll see it's broken down to support those different ASE exams, or depending on how you teach, we know that not everybody gets into all components, but you get all of these. So we'll start out simple, where you remember that transmission you saw earlier. Here it is virtually. The advantage is I get to shift it, and I get to rotate it, and I can take that engine block. Now, in this case, we're going to talk about asynchronous and synchronous learning. So I'm kind of giving you we're trying to do this together, but you're not really, you're watching. One of the great advantages of zSpace is when we actually open up the application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this for a moment, and then we go into something called zCentral. So zCentral is where you launch the application. Now I'm going to come down here to my automotive expert program, and I launch this application. Now, what's powerful about this particular application is it does not require internet. So if your students are using this from home, or internet happens to go down at your school site, you can still use everything that's going on. And that's the really great advantage inside of it. So let me grab this. Now we're going to flip over, and you're going to be able to see that application. So now I am live inside the application. I'm going to turn on something called Z-View, and I'm going to show you what that means in just a minute. I think you're really going to like that. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my stylus, and I'm going to pick up, and I see here. So those of you that can see, I'm going to navigate through here, and that allows you to see what's going on. So let me go ahead and click on the engine. Now we're going to do this live, just like we wanted to do it here, and let you see it. So I'm going to start to grab this engine. I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to be able to pull it apart and play with it. But let me show you one of the really cool pieces that we call Z-View. And this is specific. This is what makes zSpace magic happen. Now I'm pulling up Z-View. You'll see that is my presentation station. I also do this to let you know what's going on. I like to say hello, just to let you know that it's real, it's me. Now I'm going to come in and check this out. I'm going to pull this engine out. Now, maybe I want to show you how that timing belt works. I want you to see how that wraps around, and it goes around the alternator, and it lets you see what's going on there. Perhaps I want to rotate it and let you see the flywheel. I can rotate it and do that. And maybe I need to enlarge it. I can do all of that and allow you to see it. We're going to look at that throttle body. Maybe I want you to understand the principles of internal combustion. So what I can do is enlarge that, and let me start to turn it on. And check that out. I can pull that out, and you can start to see internal combustion and what's going on there. You can watch everything fire and really see what's happening here. I can rotate it because you want to watch that camshaft. I want you to see what it means if it's an inline. I can rotate that, and you can see that there. That is what makes zSpace, that's our magic. That's what allows you, and you saw how I put it back. I can teach my entire lesson from here. Based on the different contents that I'm doing. And this is very robust. Anybody that's curious, I'm happy to send you a real list of what happens and what goes on there. Now you can rotate between the two views. So now look at this, I'm right back in here. So I'm in this case, you're seeing what goes on in the expansion tank. You're gonna watch right there. Maybe I need to enlarge that. And I'm gonna come down here, and you're gonna see that. But they get to understand and see it. And maybe I'm talking about the different types of lubrication. So we get into the different modes. Maybe it's pressure. And they can see here, I can do a splash based. And they're going to be able to teach from this key concept. So it's going to engage your students at a really different level. So I'm going to pause for a minute and want to make sure, I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to make sure that everybody understands, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And if I've left you speechless, that's okay too. Awesome. So I'm going to keep going. And again, as things come up, and that's the great part, just like you could be doing. Jed, thank you. That's very kind. I know the Bluegrass team will be able to help you with all of that. Let me go through and keep you impressed, because I want to make sure and troubleshoot everything for you and really talk to what I think is the most exciting part is the hands-on component. And what that happens is when we actually get to allow the students to do it. So what if you're working from home and you don't have this? So I'm literally going to unplug this right now and show you what happens when you don't do that. So I'm going to reach behind here. Hopefully I don't turn off the power. All right, look at that. All of a sudden, I don't have this at home. All right, I've just got my all-in-one. You know, so what I can do is I can come in and I can share, and I'm going to go into my different one, Z Central. Remember that. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click one of my favorite programs called the Mechanic. And that's where students get the ability. Yes. So no, to have the zSpace where you're going to see here, because we are all talking about virtual and augmented reality, we have a laptop that allows them to have that experience where when they put on the glasses, everything is coming out. For the presentation, the instructor only needs one of these. You do not need to have that. So I realized I wasn't sharing my screen here. Let me share that screen for you here. So now I'm sharing, and I'm going to have the ability. Yes, exactly, Jed. So here we are. Let's take apart the end. Let's take apart some brakes. You know, I just replaced my brake pads not too long ago. So I've got this here. Now think about this as what the example you heard from Renton College this morning, technical college, was these laptops are actually shipped home to their students. So when they're home with their students, they're going to practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab my socket and I'm going to pull that. And it's actually going to, I'm going to actually get a chance to take that apart. So you're seeing here, now I'm going to come up to the caliper. I want to start to work on the caliper. So I grab, it's guiding me up at the top. So I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to put it right over top of my bolt. And now my caliper is going to be ready. I'm going to pull that back. And then I can start to look. Now, you know, from a teaching component, I could be talking about, okay, now when we look at these brake pads, what are the different types and wear and tear on a brake pad? What does that actually look like? What are we looking for? So I can enlarge this at any point. I can shrink it, but let me take that apart. And then now I've got to actually fix here, 10 millimeter. Maybe I picked the wrong tool. Maybe I'm not paying attention. I want to grab an air hose. It tells me I grabbed the incorrect tool. So why does that matter? Because when I come down here, there's a record. And so you can see as the instructor, and you don't have to manage this. You don't have to stand over top of the shoulder of the student and make sure they're not breaking your tools. They get the ability to work on this and have the great insight in overview of what they're doing. So you're seeing here, you could go, hey, listen, you know, Trisha, why did you grab the incorrect tool? And you can talk to her about that. Or whatever somebody else did when they didn't pull out the brake pads. Why didn't you do that? That record is always there. They can save that, and it comes down as a PDF. That can be turned into you. So students can work from home, disassemble the brakes, turn in this report to you on any learning management system, Google Classroom, Blackboard, DTL. You know, there's tons of them out there right now, Schoology. They can turn that in, and then when they come in, they can say, okay, now you're ready. Maybe you get a chance to see a mistake they made because you had a chance to do it. That's what allows them to do. That's the power of what happens here. And that's what we love about what we're giving students. And then it just keeps going. So they take it apart. Now I'm going to get in and take apart my brake assembly. And, you know, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to let them have that experience. So I love that. It really allows you to see it and to go through the different steps. So I'm going to pause one more time. There is a lot inside of here. You don't have to, let me go back to the home. You can assemble or disassemble. You don't have to always do that. If I go into something like the brake, maybe I just want to work on a particular subpart. I have the ability to work on that individual subpart. So maybe I'm just working on the cylinder block. I can focus in on the flywheel and just that individual part. I don't have to do the entire thing. Now you'll also notice it's flashing green. That's because it's guiding me through it. Now, maybe I don't want to do that. I wanted to prove that I know how to do this. Well, we have a different mode where it's the training mode, and you see how it immediately stops. Now I can show that I know how to do it. But if I get stuck, I still have one hint down at the bottom, and it gives me a hint just for that one. And it allows me to take that step, and then I can move on. And then I also have an exam mode that allows me, it's timed. I put in my student name and my number, and then I take my exam and I go from there. So I see I got a lot of questions. So let me pause, kind of stop sharing here, pull up some questions, and let's start answering, because I'm excited that you're excited. All right, let's see here. Great. So yeah, you're just going to see it doesn't grade it numerically. It will tell you whether you did it or you didn't. You know, that's not our intention. We still believe that you're the master of your classroom. And when we developed this, it was really about allowing them to practice in the standard practice way. Not necessarily, we know that people take apart things differently and you go in different orders to a degree, but this is not necessarily about the grading. If you wanted to score up your own grading system, it tells you how many steps. You know, you could do the basic, hey, you grab the incorrect tool, -1, you know, that's 10 points or 5 points. You know, you can make that up however you want. We don't do that. We leave that to you because you're the master of your classrooms. But what we do tell you is, did you complete the task? And it's a yes or no, because either you fixed it or you didn't. It's kind of my logic. And if you didn't, you need to keep working through what you're weak in. So that's a great question. Let me come back through here. Yeah, so a typical setup is where you have the all-in-one station, just like you got. I'm presenting, I'm teaching. I could do this in my classroom. In this case, I did disconnected here because I just wanted you to see what happens when it doesn't, to really be live for you. You can still use it, but then students have laptops carts. And in that laptop cart setting, they can share it. We've already gone through all the CDC cleaning guidelines. We've gone through that. One of my great examples is in Gwinnett County. We have it at one of the schools there in the automotive program, where the kids are doing it. They're coming in, they take the laptops out of the laptop cart and they start to do their work there. And that way, those that are on the shop floor, they're getting really good individual attention. And then the instructor has the ability to allow them to still be working and actually doing something that speaks the language of these students and something that they really enjoy. So with that said, that's kind of what we have for light gas and truck in a very fast view. I want to pivot into some alternative fuels and talk a little bit of that. Unless there's any more questions, you guys are fantastic about typing in there. Please, if you have any questions, continue to type them in. And otherwise, I'll flip in and talk a little bit about alternative fuels.
Hey, Michael, this is Aaron. Did you see the question about the grading? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but just wanted to make sure that Jed felt good about knowing the different ways you could get grades out of this.
Absolutely. So again, you can you can take this and it will score it. So let me go back into it here just to show you what happens. Boom. So now I'm back in this program. Let's come back here. I'm gonna back up a little bit, something I can do pretty good from memory. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna, yes, it saved my spot. So now if I go to here and I'm gonna kick it into my exam mode, you win, and 1, 2, 3. So now I'm in it. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Nope, grab my wrong one. So I'll have it here, just joking. And when you go through it, all right, that's always good when I'm doing it incorrectly.
Hey, Michael, I think what I think Jed just put in an additional question. Do you have any examples of like what a grade or grade book or instructor report would look like?
Yeah, let me show you that.
Okay, and while you're pulling that up too, I think some ways of alternative grading. And I think Michael, touched on this. The students, there is a program on the laptop and the all-in-one for that matter, that allows students to record their screen. And so, you've got this exam portion and he's pulling up the grade book for this, but then you could also have students, put that in the training mode, the training mode view, and students could record them, taking apart the assembly, putting it back together, whatever. So that could be more, task-based, type, just to look at it, or actually get a feedback report that Michael's putting up here. So
yep, here you go. So this is what it looks like. This is just a very simple one. It should be sharing. There we go. It's catching up. That is a simple report. It's a PDF because it just allows you to see. So you could see this student went through it and they grabbed the incorrect tool and then they got it right. So they grabbed the incorrect tool twice. And then you can see down here, they did it. So what this tells me is this student is probably struggling with remembering the difference between a 10 millimeter and 11 millimeter. So that's the conversation you can have with them. How you grade that, that's completely up to you. But this is a PDF, so they would turn this into you on your learning management system. And in this case, they did the 10 steps. You could say, hey, look, these are the 2 steps you got wrong. You got an 80% because you got these ones. So this allows you, and you can also see they spent 2 minutes working on it. But that is what this is allowing you to do. And this is what you get. This is the exact spit out you get, and your students turn that in, and they can turn in on everything inside of here. Now, the other piece I wanted you to see that was brought up is going to be something where I forgot to mention, you can actually import your own PowerPoints into Expert. So what that means is like all these lessons that you've already created, that maybe you have your old PowerPoint, say you use them. There's some great products out there like CDX or Electude or some Pearson, maybe James Halderman. They have a lot of PowerPoints and you want to help bring them to life because they're just not as engaging. So what you do is you have the ability to take this, let me screen share. I'm back in the Expert program. So you'll see down at the bottom, let me let that catch up. There you go. Down at the bottom, you'll see it says customize courses. And then I can come in here and I can take this course. So this can be any PowerPoint that you have. And now you see I'm in this and I could be guiding you through this. So instead of us going through learning about the different cylinders, when I get to the actual piece, now we start to talk about cylinder arrangement, I can go, okay, great. Boom. Let me pull this up. Now you have the ability, I can turn this again and all those great advantages that you had before. And you have the ability to enlarge it and go through. So now they can see what it means to be N line. I can pull up a V line and I can rotate it so they get a chance to really see what the difference is between those. Instead of looking at a picture and them trying to visually think about what that is, you get a way to show that. Now this is a PowerPoint. You could grade this however you want it to do. There's a lot of flexibility. Aaron mentioned the ability to record themselves. You can have your students record themselves and submit a video to you explaining it. It's a lot more interactive for them, and there's limitless as to what happens here. Great question. So to use the application, there is no internet required. Of course, just like now, if you want to do it over a Zoom or a Google Meets, you will need internet, of course, to do that. But I like to draw the line between the two is we have a number of users in zSpace that are in very rural populations. One of my favorite is in Louisiana and in St. Landry Parish. They do not have high quality internet. It's just what it is. But their students can still be using the automotive program on their laptop because they actually get the laptop and they send it home with them. And so the students are actually still able to work on it at home. And then when they do their best to have a Zoom hangout or a Google Meets to talk about it with their instructor, that's what they get to do. So that's the really great piece that comes with it. I hope that helps understand the difference. You do not, so just to be very clear, you do not need internet to use zSpace when you have a zSpace device. You do need internet, of course, to use a Zoom or a telecommunication piece. Yes, exactly, Jed, you get it. So that's exactly the question. Just so you know what Jed said is, so students would complete the assignment on the zSpace laptop, and then the next time they get internet or they have access, they can upload that file. Exactly, you got it. Or to be honest, they could store it locally and allow them to, when the next time they come to, they come to school to bring in the laptop, they can turn in their work then, they can put it on a thumb drive. There's a lot of different exercises and ways they can do it. But yes, it saves it locally. You get it, you're spot on. Great questions. Any more? Those are awesome. I love the enthusiasm. Okay, well, I'm gonna, so the students then would be required to upload. That's what I say. I mean, that's what I suggest, because you want them to see it. Otherwise you would have to, if you didn't have them upload it to your learning management system, you would have to check every kid's laptop. And I think that could be a bit cumbersome, but hey, if you've got that time, you go for it. I love that if that's what you want to do. Or you could have them submit that report to you, and it's a lot easier to go through and do it. It doesn't get sent out automatically because we don't know how your different learning management system, everybody, whether you use Blackboard, again, Schoology or Canvas, they all operate different. So we don't quite have that automatic send up, but it does always save it locally. So that's one of those things that, unfortunately, because we have thousands of school districts that use us, it's a little hard to get. So I know the pricing question keeps coming up. I can tell you just kind of, the laptops start at $17.99. I recommend that you work with any of your Bluegrass, your local people, support Aaron and Steve and Keith or Meredith, depending on your region, to help you with that, and they can get you squared away. Because the laptop is really just the tool. You could do this across multiple programs. Right, we're not a learning management system. We work with the learning management systems because, school districts all over, they change learning. Yeah, that's a bit much. I don't believe in adding another thing for an instructor to have to learn. So the laptop is the zSpace laptop, because we are talking about augmented and virtual reality. Just like you saw me pull that engine out, that does require special hardware. So one of the other questions, which I'm sure you're leaning to, is can they use a Chromebook? No, they can't. Chromebooks are not powerful devices. They're very intentional, low cost, low powered devices. And that's not what they're intended to use. We're talking about images that are crazy powerful and pulling them out and giving you that experience. Correct. So the instructor, when they have the all-in-one, just like you've seen me doing here, this is not a repurposed Dell or HP. This is an actual zSpace piece of hardware. We make this, we manufacture this. We just run Windows. The same way that HP makes their own stuff and they run Windows, Dell makes their stuff and they run Windows. This is ours. The difference is we built in the cameras inside of here, and that's what allows that to happen. So when you go from there, that allows it to happen. So just like I'm running Zoom, I've got my Google Chrome browser. It's a completely functioning computer, and that's where you get that multi-purpose use out of it. Let's see. I got so many questions. I love it. So then, as far as the all-in-one, again, I have to. They varies by. I think the starting price on that one is. I think it's $3,200, and you only need one of those, and you share it typically. And that gets you started in that last. We have people that are still using the original ones that are 12 years old. So again, I'm going to really defer to the Bluegrass team and allow them to help you with those questions. And as you go through it, I really encourage you to reach out to any of them, and we can dive deeper into it, because depending on your setup, we have packages that support all the different setups, whether you do a district-wide implementation or you're just buying 5. it just depends on what you're doing. We're like Target or Walmart or anybody else. We have discounting programs that fit into your budget regardless of the model, because we're very blessed to have completely district-wide implementations where they're one-to-one in every kid's hand, down to people just have them in the library, and they have 3 or 4 or 5 in the library, and that's what they use, and they rotate through. So depending on what you're thinking about with your setup, I encourage you to work through Bluegrass, and I can share any more of that, but I want to be able to give you the right answer, and the Bluegrass team is going to be able to help you with that as you go through it. So with
Michael,
that said, yeah,
let me jump in real quick, and then maybe a quick question you can address. I know you have a few other things you wanted to show. We could definitely put together a courtesy quote or whatever the case may be, but I think it would be nice to kind of hear what to get accurate pricing, and
right.
actually hear what people are kind of envisioning what they want to do, because there are several different ways to implement zSpace, and yeah, so we just want to make sure we're clear with that. Before we transition, maybe since we are talking about pricing, could you speak to funding as well, like how zSpace is often funded?
Absolutely. Let me talk about that. That's a great point. zSpace is 100% Perkins eligible. So because we are leading to an industry credential, we are actually the only AR VR product that's endorsed by NOCTI. We've done a number of works with ACTE. There was a great little piece from Leanne Wilson, who's the executive director there, if you wanted to hear what she thinks about zSpace. But we, number one, as a former CTE director and somebody who has managed countless Perkins funds year over year, that we are eligible. We're Perkins eligible. We are COVID eligible because we are educational technology. So if you have any CARES Act funding remaining, of course, you are eligible to use that on us, and as well as the new HEROES Act, or whenever that funding, how that works out, we are eligible because we are very much an educational technology. This is not a toy. This is very intentional use that we are supporting those industry credentials. One of the other ones, I know that a number of states have e-rebate programs as well. And if you're doing any grant funding, if you're writing a grant, maybe you're doing a magnet schools assistant grant, or maybe you're doing a USDA loan, USDA grant for rural populations, we are eligible for all of those. And that's actually one of my roles, is I help with the grant writing process. So if you have those questions, or you're working on a specific one of your local grants or statewide, I've met with most of the Department of Educations at the state levels. They are very much familiar with zSpace, so we are eligible for all that. Title I, Century 21, all the different federal programs that exist, we are completely eligible for all of them. So I love it. I know we've had a lot of people join us. So I appreciate everybody joining, and I know we're coming hard up on time. I want to make sure and show you 2 more applications that really round out our automotive bundle, if you will, and I think that will really be exciting. One of the ones I want to show you, and I'm just gonna, you guys have been so great with questions. I'm just gonna jump right into the program. Let's keep it free flowing. This next one is called Franklin's Lab, and I love this application. And I'll tell you why I love it, because it's about electrical and what you can do with that. So what I'm going to do here is, let me share my screen again. So boom. So when we think about here, this is called Franklin's Lab. And what that has to do is, let's talk about simple circuits. Let's talk about series circuits. Let's talk about parallels. Let's talk about relays. Let's talk about Ohm's law. We know that your students need to have the ability to go in and do that and to work on that. And Lord knows, working from home, working face-to-face, all these little tiny pieces and parts, that can be challenging. But what this does is we take that breadboard and I allow you to burn things up, and I love it. Because who doesn't like burning some things up every once in a while? So look at that. You got a multimeter right here. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to just do something simple. I'm going to grab a 9 volt. And I'm going to come in here. I'm going to start to run some wires. I've gotten the different gauges. So now there is over 30 different individual lessons that deals with troubleshooting, that deals with switches and relays. is I'm going to put a little switch on this one. That is all inside of here. But what makes it fun is I can take this motor, let me throw this away, and I can drop this right in here. And I can see it here, and then I can turn it on, and look at that. I burned it up. So you know what? It's smoking. I need to throw that away. I need to realize that happened when I click my switch. Maybe I need to add a resistor. So I can build, all of you, I know a lot of times you have your own custom pieces that you have your students build a wiring diagram. They can build that here, and it's really fun. So I can take this same exact piece, and I was supposed to put a resistor on here, so let me put that on. So let me put a little 1 ohm. So you'll see over here on my multimeter, it's letting me know I got a 9 volt. This is 1 ohm. It's going to allow that to happen. Let me kick it in, and look at that. It shows me my wattage. Man, I still burned it up. So what happened there? And I can continue to troubleshoot. And I know this is very pressed for time, but there's many lessons around the electricity. You can custom build this, and they will never burn up. They'll never lose pieces. They can do this from home. I love this application, and I can't say how many of our countless automotive users really enjoy this application because it allows you to do that, and all the different pieces and parts. We've got some powerful lessons that are inside of there, and that's a really popular use of zSpace, and very low cost that allows that to happen. So then lastly, after that, the last one I want to get into is our alternative fuels. If you are using alternative fuels, or if you're thinking about it, I know that ASE is building the standards for this, and it's coming. I know if you just saw, there was a great piece by the GM that was coming out. I mean, the alternative fuel, lithium ion, it's not going away. And what you need to be able to do is work on it. And it is extremely dangerous, and it's very expensive. So what we've done is we focused in on the different types that goes into. So when they look at battery powered, when they look at alternative fuel, I'm going to share that with you again. I'm going to put on my glasses because it's going to pop out for me. And you're going to see right here, I can focus in and learn about all the different components. In this case, here's the battery power. Maybe I can look at the different harnesses that goes into it that's used, the different types of power, the powertrain. And I can actually start to learn about the different power pieces. I can do a disassembly. I can actually take it apart just like you saw before. You have the same record that you saw before, and you can go through it. And I love, as it tells me, 17 millimeter. I'm going to come in here and I can go through those different pieces. If I get stuck, it gives me a little question, and it's only that one. And I can start to take that apart. So I can come in here, I can remove it, and I'm going to be able to keep doing that. So we're allowing your students to get to work with that. And I love what it does there. So all of that is inside of here. I can go back, I can undo it. That's a great way to get you excited. Now, then after that, this is one of my favorite pieces. We actually talk about failure simulation, because that's the big thing that goes on inside of the alternative fuels, is that it's about doing what goes wrong. So this is the top 8 failures that go wrong. And what's great is you as the instructor don't need to be a master of this. You know, you can learn together, or the students can really do it. So when we look at, you know, what happens with, let's do something like nuisance tripping. You're seeing here, here's the description of what's going on. I've got my work order, and I've got to fill out my work order. And that's something that I love, that we've really taken it to the next level. And it allows you to open it up. I can get inside. I know that I press on the brake, and it's going to guide me through step by step what I'm doing. All here, I can get my failure diagram. I haven't completed it yet. See, it doesn't let you skip. I love that. It really guides them through the entire process for alternative fuels. And we have hybrid, we have electric. It's going to allow that to happen. So I just wanted you to see that today. And I know this was quick. I really encourage you to, if you have further questions, I'm happy to answer them with you. We're happy to work through them individually with you on your setups and what that looks like. But I really wanted to honor everybody's time today. Let me go ahead. I see I got more questions coming. I love it. Oh, yeah, yeah. So the electrical components, that's the question was. Thank you very much for the kind words, Jeb. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and it was worth your time. The electrical components, we do have a diagnostic program that we started to make, and it was very, very close to coming out here in January, but I wasn't happy with where it was. So it's actually coming out in February. So it just about, we're almost there, but we really focus on, we work with the industry and we work with our customers when we make applications. We don't just release things because we make it up. We really focus on the quality of what we're putting out, and it just didn't meet my quality standards as we were getting to release. So we went back in, we're making some adjustments, but I'm really excited, and it's going to focus in on those electrical aspects of the newest vehicles. And of course, trying to keep up with that is a work in progress. But we did accomplish that on alternative fuels, and that's why we released that one up front, because it was a big ask out of our customers. So we really wanted to allow that to happen. So it took a little bit of a higher priority, and that's what you see the product I just showed you right now. But by the end of February, I'm going to have another update that comes out, and it's going to be, I'm really excited about what that's going to do, and it's going to address that very topic in really good depth. So we got about 2 minutes left. I can't stress enough how thankful I am. Let me put this up with the team of Bluegrass. I know we didn't get a chance to burn through all that you want. You're going to have more questions. So let me put this up. If you've got contact and you've got questions, you're going to see them right here. Here's the team. You need a further follow-up. You need more demo. You want to bring in some of your other teachers. You want to bring in other people from your leadership team. You want pricing. You want all of that. This is the amazing group that's going to help you with that. Please reach out to them. They've got their cell phones, their contact. If you have any curriculum questions or any more depth of that, I'm happy to meet with you and work through those things. And that's not a problem. But Aaron and the Bluegrass team, this has been a great webinar. Anything I'm missing?
Yeah, actually, I have a quick follow-up. So I've been playing around, looking at a few things. The Leopoly maker, aren't there some 3D versions of automotive designs in Leopoly maker? Or am I getting that confused with something else?
So not Leopoly maker, they make them in Tinkercad. So we do have a relationship with Tinkercad, and that's Autodesk. So if you get any modeling, anything that you make, you can actually import into a zSpace machine, and then they can actually see their creations inside of it. So depending on your program, if you get into the design, it's a great piece. That's a relationship we have with Autodesk that I love. So yeah, that's a great call out.
Great, thank you. Oops. So are there questions from anyone else? So I kind of moved there. Here I am. Are there questions from anyone else out there? Again, we'll be sending this video out. Follow up with those Nocti blueprints as well.
Yep.
And maybe another video or two that is relevant to this automotive zSpace package. Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, again, I can't stress enough, depending on what you're thinking about your implementation will be, I promise you I can give you an example of a customer that has walked that journey, and I'm happy to connect you with them as we go through it. And I look forward to working with any of you in the Bluegrass team as we expand.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, thank you very much. Great job today. Great presentation. From those that are on the call, you're getting some round of applause there. Absolutely. From those that are here, thank you for joining us. Again, I always want to say, we did a health sciences webinar yesterday. Automotive is today. Tomorrow at the same time at 10 o'clock, we're doing an advanced manufacturing industrial maintenance webinar. So if you have colleagues that you think would benefit from that, I'll, along with that follow-up information I'll send today, I'll send the information, the Zoom link where they could join with that, and would love for them to join us and learn more about that, the industrial maintenance, advanced manufacturing. And these are just three areas. I do want to throw out that zSpace has HVAC, carpentry, criminal justice, in the health sciences, it's kind of broad, but there's a new dental program as well. I may have left one or two out, but there are 32 CT. Yeah, I said 33 yesterday. 32 different CT content areas that are addressed, and again, all NOCV aligned, which I know is important, definitely for folks like Jed who are in West Virginia, where NOCV is very important.
Yep.
So once again, I just saw a couple things come through. Make sure we didn't miss any additional questions. And if we haven't, let's see. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. We're coming up on 11. Thank you again to Michael. And if we can do anything for you guys, as far as zSpace or anything else for your CT programs, please let us know.